when you came here, our staff was like, "You got to go meet the crazy lamp lady." I was like, "Who? What is the crazy lamp lady? What do you?"
I remember that day because you came up to me and you're like, "Hi, what are you doing?" And I was like, "Filming. I've been in here." Like I thought.
Welcome to Burner Brothers today. I'm Jacob, and I'm sitting here with two incredible guests. Jocelyn, you want to introduce yourself? Everybody knows who you are already.
Yes.
My name is Jocelyn, and I am known on social media as the Crazy Lamp Lady.
And we have George.
And I'm George, and I'm known as the Antique Nomad.
So we are here at the Heart of Ohio Antique Center, and if you've been watching any, you've noticed that Josh and I have been doing some interviews, and we've just kind of sat down and started a discussion. So we are here, and we thought, what a great opportunity. Let's have a discussion. So what I always like to start with is first off, how did you guys get started collecting, buying, selling? George, you're older. You get to go first.
No, I get to go.
Put George on the spot. You can think that way.
About it. Okay.
I got started collecting because we walked into the PX on the Navy base when I was 4 years old, and there was a penny on the ground, and it had these weird stalks of weed on the back, and that didn't look like pennies I knew. And I picked it up, and it was from 1958, I think, and I thought that was really, really old because that was 15 years ago back then. And so my folks said, "Are you going to buy penny candy? Or are you going to buy a penny toy?" And I said, "No, I'm going to keep it."
Okay.
And they said, "Really?" And I still have it. And
You still have it. That was your first item.
And I was 4 years old.
4 years old.
My first item.
What Navy base?
This is Southern California, San Diego.
Okay, where all did you travel when you were young like that, Navy-wise?
My dad got out of the Navy when I was a year old, but he got a job with a defense contractor, and we moved just like a Navy family. We lived in 4 different places one year. We lived in Ohio, Michigan, Washington, and California, all when I was 8 years old.
So from 4 years old to 8 year old, you were traveling. What about like from that time until you actually like graduated high school and
finally,
what else did you do? How did you keep collecting?
Well, I got into a lot of other things because we moved to a place in the country in Washington, and they had a whole bunch of bottles behind. There had been an old trash dump, and they just threw all their trash over the ravine back then. They didn't have garbage pickup, and we found those, and those were from the 50s, and we thought that was really old. So my friends and I, we dug this bottle dig, and we dug everything out of that, and we found all these old bottles and thought it was the coolest thing.
Now, how old were you when you're doing all this?
Maybe 10.
10. So you went from pennies to bottles.
I went from pennies to stamps to bottles to matchbooks to hubcaps to car emblems, and by the time I was 16, I was just like into everything and thought it was all really interesting.
Okay, that is okay. So that's the backstory to 16. Now let's switch over here. Backstory. Where did you start from?
As far as collecting goes, it started in Rhode Island. Similar to George and the bottle dumps, I would go out into the woods as a kid, just exploring and stuff, and I discovered some old cellar holes where people had discarded bottles.
Okay, so cellar holes.
Old cellar holes. Like
what is a cellar hole?
What is a cellar hole?
What do you mean by a cellar hole?
So like way back in like the 1700s, there was like an old cellar hole.
Okay. Like in the side of the hill, like a basement. Okay.
Yeah, it was like a basement that they built their house on.
Well, I was thinking you were referring to like the old outhouse. You know,
well, that's a privy.
It's a privy. Okay, a privy.
Because those are great places to
go. They are. Yeah, there's good bottles.
When I grew up, like I grew up on this lane, and on the lane, like half of the homes still didn't have plumbing, and so we used those as kids. I was thinking, well, is that okay?
Yeah.
So that to the side.
You can find good bottles.
We can, and yes, the privies have lots of bottles.
They do.
Okay, so you weren't in privies, you were in cellars.
These were in cellar holes.
Okay.
And so you could follow the old rock walls in New England because they stretch for miles.
Okay.
And you could follow the walls and you'd find these old cellar holes. And they, for some reason, the farmers would just fill them with old bottles and trash and stuff. So I like in the winter, I would go back there and I'd bring a sled and I just dig up all these bottles, put them on the sled and drag them all back.
So you was in the snow that you were...
Yeah, a lot of the times, yeah.
Wow.
I'd drag them all back home.
How old were you when you were doing this?
Probably 12, 13.
12 or 13?
Yeah.
Oh,
and
nice.
my parents had this old dilapidated chicken coop and I would just put all the bottles in. So by the time we moved, it was like Crocs and bottles and stuff. It was like older stuff too.
And you probably found some pretty nice stuff when you look back on it.
Yeah, when I look back on it. But when we moved, my parents were like, okay, let's go. And so the next owners probably got this chicken coop full of bottles and Crocs.
Okay, that's fun. So what is there one that certain time that you went where it's like, I remember this one I found?
No, Not really.
Got one of those? No?
Yeah,
You don't have the
not
wheat penny
really.
story.
No,
you know.
I don't have the wheat penny story. No.
Okay.
No.
Okay, that's fine. And so that okay, you went from collecting out of the cellar's hole, collecting the bottles,
Yeah.
and then what was the next step leading you into where you're at
I
today?
didn't really do much after that. It wasn't until later in life that I rediscovered digging for bottles and then metal detecting, and then
Because the metal detecting, it kind of relates to the digging for bottles.
it does,
It's
yeah,
kind of a
yeah.
similar
It's kind of
thing.
it was kind of like that led to metal detecting, and then I started collecting relics and buttons and coins and stuff like that. I never sold anything that I found, so that was kind of collecting in a way.
Right.
And then I started reselling, and I got into carnival glass, so I collected some carnival glass.
When did you start reselling? How old were
I
you?
started reselling when Ashton was just born. So that was almost 13. So that was 12 years ago.
12 years ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm not very good at math.
I still use all 20 digits.
22, 23. Yeah.
Okay. Nice. All right, so you got back into starting to resell 22, 23. When you were doing all that collecting, did you start selling?
No, I didn't actually. I wanted to keep everything forever and ever.
You were hoarding.
A collector. Yes, I was a
collector. Sorry.
Well, it could have been a hoard if I'd been allowed. And similar to you, my parents gave me we had a barn that had fallen down, and there was a lean-to attached to it, and that's where all my junk went.
Yeah.
And it all stayed there. And the new owners, I'm sure, were like, "What the heck is all
What is
this?" But I started. I didn't really start reselling at all. I just really thought of myself as a collector until I got into the business
Right.
and was working around the antique malls, and then suddenly I was introduced to, wow, this is a thing, and people actually do this for a living, and they buy and sell this stuff. This is amazing. I could do that too.
Okay, and then you got hooked.
And then I got hooked. Very hooked. Yeah, the first day I worked at an antique mall, the first customer in the door asked me if they had any blue Caprice, which I noticed you have a whole case full. It's Cambridge glass. I didn't know what that was. I thought it was a car. I was like, I think there's
one in the parking lot out there.
I said that actually, and they laughed. And the customer was like, no, honey, you must be new. There's a piece over here. Let me show you. And the customer proceeded to tell me everything there was to know about Cambridge glass. And I mean, I'd literally worked in this place for 30 minutes, and suddenly I knew all this stuff about Cambridge glass. And I was like, this is amazing. The people who come here will tell you about the stuff that they're buying while they buy it.
So you're getting an education while you're working.
And it was free, and I was just like, this is awesome.
And what year was that? What
1989.
1989.
Yes.
Okay, so from 1989, you started working there. You started flipping then and buying, reselling.
Well,
what's the progress to where you are, the Nomad now? Like, walk us through this story.
Okay, well, I'll try to not make it every story, but there are a few. And I got the job out of the classified ads in the newspaper, which they said is a horrible way to get a job, but it was a fantastic job. I had to do the marketing, so I had to learn a little bit about everything. And so, like in your mall here, I would go around, I would pick things out that I thought were cool, take pictures of them, learn a little bit, write something about them, and we'd put it out there and sell them. And that was how we did our business.
Right.
And so we ended up, this is pre-eBay, so you didn't have the just list it and everybody sees it thing. And we advertised nationally, and people came from all over the country. So we had really good stuff. And because of that, I was fortunate to be exposed to a lot of really good high-end collectible and antique things back when you saw more of that. I look at your mall, and your mall is full of amazing stuff. I don't see a whole lot of malls that are full of amazing stuff anymore. You guys have managed to keep it because of how you sell it.
Yeah.
And that's what we were doing at the time. And it was so fun, and I learned so much.
So much. It's amazing how much you can learn just by touching it, feeling it, being around it. Knowledge you get from being in this industry, it never stops.
It never stops, because you've done it pretty much your whole life.
It's all I've
too,
ever
it
done.
seems like,
Yeah.
me too. And the thing is that, you don't necessarily, you don't have to know everything going into it. You just have to know how to ask the next question. And somebody else out there will come along and they will help you with it, and you'll find the answer eventually. I mean, it's just amazing. People are that was the other thing I loved right away, is I saw how collegial it was and how people help each other. And I thought, this doesn't feel like working for some big, intense corporation. This feels like something that's close to the people, and I can do this, and I love it.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite things about this industry is how there's room for everyone.
Yes.
Does not matter what level you want. Rather, you've got $20 to start that's what I started with, $20. My dad gave me that $20 bill and said, here you go. It doesn't matter if you start with $20 or $20,000 or anywhere in between. There's a way to make money, to buy, to sell, to flip, to resell. So Jocelyn, let's go back to your story.
Okay.
So you're in the midst of that. You started to resell. So walk us from that point to how you became the crazy lamp lady that you are today.
Well, it started with my dad bringing home a lamp from a yard sale. He brought home this like janky lamp, and he was like,
Yeah, I like that
he
word.
was like, oh, I got this from a yard sale. I paid $5 for it, and I'm going to sell it on eBay for $75.
Okay.
And I was like, you paid how much? You're going to do what? And
You can make
like,
$70
oh my
on
God.
that, and what?
Wait, what?
I gotta go work a long time to make that, right?
Yeah, I know. Like, that's so easy. So then I started going to yard sales. And I put Ashton in the stroller, and every weekend I go to yard sales and I buy stuff. And I paid to learn a lot. You know, I bought a lot of stuff. I'm like, oh, this is old. It must be worth money. And like, as we know,
Yeah, you paid for your education.
yes, I did. I paid to learn. And so one of my first big scores was Carnival Glass. And I think I talked about before that red bowl that I spotted. I had spotted a red bowl on top of a fridge at a yard sale. And they had all this stuff out, and I was like, is that red bowl for sale? You know, up on top of the fridge. And they're like, oh, well, that's grandma's. We have to check with grandma, you know. And I'm like, oh, okay. And thinking it's going to be like $50, you know, or whatever. And they're like, we'd have to get $5 for that. And I was like, oh, okay.
Sure, I got it somewhere.
Get my money out fast enough, you know. And at the time, it was like a red Persian medallion bonbon. And at the time, it sold for $300. I mean, now the price is, you know, this is
Prices go up, prices go down.
It's probably not worth that now. But I remember selling that, and being like, I need more Carnival Glass.
So that was it. So you were on a Carnival Glass mission from that point forward?
Yeah,
or
and
what?
then I got a Storks and Rushes punch bowl set on Facebook Marketplace, paid $100 for it, and I think I sold that one for $300 or $400.
Okay.
You know, so I was like, Carnival Glass is what I need to buy and sell.
So when you were starting to buy and sell the Carnival Glass, did you try and learn the rare stuff, or did you just look at everything, or what was your approach?
I was buying and selling everything, and I was learning as I went.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, well, obviously this isn't worth much, and you know, and so it was a pain to learn.
Well, I find very interesting about what you said, which is so true, that if you're getting in this business, I think it's important, is don't be afraid to buy and sell. You're not going to make money on everything, and the best way to learn, for me, that I found out in this business, is do it. New category, okay, I learned how to buy art one time. I bought an art collection. I lost a lot of money. I call it my art degree. and I got a degree in art from that collection I lost a lot of money on. So I hate talking about it. It still makes me shake. But I think that's so interesting. Just, you have to experience it to buy it, to sell it. You read it in the books, you can see all the stuff, but unless you're doing it, handling it, touching it, flipping it, you really don't understand.
And then a lot of times I'll see something and I'll be like, oh, well, they want that much money for it. Do I really want to take that risk on it to learn, you know, is it worth that or not? You know, you have to kind of make that decision if you know, want to pay to learn that.
Yeah, like you said, the first one you got, you paid $5. The second one you paid $100. So you learn fast, and you do start stepping up. That's the thing. When you start realizing there's good, better, and best, and you see best, you start saying, okay, this is worth taking the plunge.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah, it's a different level. Well, I'm sure you know, you got to that point where suddenly you weren't just looking at $20 items anymore either.
We buy a wide range of volume, a lot of the different price ranges. I still, like today, you watched me buy $150 worth of stuff that walked in the door. I don't know what I bought. Some Hot Wheels and some metal plaques and whatnot. But yeah, I think it's interesting. So Indian rugs, you know, I started learning about the Navajo rugs and stuff.
I had one hanging out in my car for a few weeks.
Did you?
Yeah. Well, I had it in my booth.
Nobody bought it?
I put it in my booth because I needed a rug.
Okay.
And I had bought it at auction for like $200. And I put it in my booth because I wanted a rug in there and I didn't have one to put in there. And I put not for sale. And they kept getting asked about it over and over and over again. I'm like, what's with this rug? I knew it was like a Native American rug. So finally I took Google image search, and it turns out it's a $4,500 rug.
Wow. Well, no wonder they want to buy it.
I better get that off the floor.
Let's go ahead and put that one on the wall.
Yes.
I think rugs look better on the wall anyway.
Yeah, so.
No, I was interesting enough. I was privy to watch all of this stuff selling all the time. Growing up Mom and Dad had a little auction house, and so I was just constantly watching and learning. And I was 8, 9, 10, 12 years old, just amazed.
What an amazing experience.
It was, and prices just started like clicking in my mind where I seen some. Oh, I remember that bringing $30. I have no idea even what it was, a piece of Roseville or whatever, but I remember what it brought and the color and the style, without any backstory behind it, just recognizing that stuff. And that's kind of how I probably started really getting into it. But yeah, this is wild.
And that's kind of how my brain works too, is I look a lot of times at, like, I'll go on eBay and I'll search highest sold, and then I'll look at, you know, oh, well, in this category, this is what's selling. And I'll, like, my brain will be like, okay, well, this is what's good in this category.
And it just starts registering,
Yeah,
doesn't
and
it?
so I know when I see it, I'm like, oh, well, that sells for good money because I've seen it on eBay, and that's, you know. And eBay only holds 90 days. So in the last 90 days, this sold for good money, and I know that, and, you know.
Yeah.
so we know it's popular now.
Yeah,
Popular
exactly.
now. Sure.
Versus Worth Point, which is 10 years. So it's like you have to be a little
You
bit
gotta
more
be
careful with that. Yeah.
That's so interesting. Okay, so now you've got you both. Okay, you inspired me to do a YouTube channel. That's why I'm here. Okay, because Jocelyn's like, okay, look, you
gotta do this.
You gotta do this thing. You guys
Look at this amazing place they have to work with all the time. Yes.
So that's why I'm here. So you inspired me to do this. But how did you get inspired to start the YouTube and the Facebook and all of the social media stuff? How did that start?
Yeah, well, it started way back with my previous channel, which was metal detecting. It was called Relic Recoverist. And even that started out as a blog. I was blogging, and then I had to take a public speaking class.
Okay.
It was the last.
I should probably take one of this.
It
I'm
was
really
the
bad.
last class I needed to complete my associate's degree, and I had put it off so long that it took me 10 years to get my associate's degree.
All over one class.
Over one class. Like
You were terrified of public speaking.
Terrified of public speaking.
Wow, and
so
now
I
look at
finally
you.
had to take this class, and it was an online class. Like by that time, you didn't have to stand in front of your class; you could just talk to the camera. And
Okay.
So I'm taking this class, and I'm talking to the camera, and I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad. I could do this. So I decided to take my metal detecting blog to a vlog and to start doing videos on
Okay.
YouTube. So I started my metal detecting YouTube channel, and I started doing the metal detecting thing, and I grew that channel to about 80,000 subscribers.
Wow.
And
How long
then-
did that take to go from 0 to 80,000?
Just a couple years.
A couple of years.
Yeah, a couple years.
Is that daily posting
Yeah, for the most part.
for the most part?
Yeah. And then, the ground started freezing. You can only metal detect for so many months in Pennsylvania because the ground gets cold.
Okay.
And we had some rough winters where the ground was frozen solid. And so I had to come up with another idea. And at the time I was, picking part-time. It wasn't a full-time thing. It was just like a side hustle. So I decided to sprinkle in some videos of going to Goodwill or antique malls. And those videos really clicked with people. And I'm like, oh, this could be a thing. I could start a whole new channel and
Start a
do
new
this.
channel.
Oh, this is great.
And it was which is more fun to actually do, the metal detecting or?
I really enjoy metal. It's very relaxing. But at the time, I was sponsored by a major metal detecting manufacturer, and it had really become a job. Like there was a lot of pressure. It was a job, and so for me, at the time, it wasn't that fun.
Yeah.
So it was easy for me to be like, this is more fun.
Yeah, for sure. Now it's like you're in a play box every. I describe this in the antique center as my toy box.
Yes,
I get to go and play in the toy box every single day.
Isn't it fun? Yes.
That's so cool. Okay, so you started doing the dailies.
So I started doing the daily Crazy Lamp Lady videos.
Okay.
Well, first it was like I just kind of started putting out a few videos here and there because my main focus was still the metal detecting.
Okay.
And then eventually, once the videos really started to catch on, I was like, okay, this is what I need to focus on.
Okay.
And then it was full into it.
When did you make that switch?
I'd say like 2016 or 17 is
Okay.
when I finally made the switch. So I've been doing it for about 6 years now.
Yeah.
Which is crazy to think.
Well, something I've watched quite a few of your videos now. After when you came here, our staff was like, "You got to go meet the crazy lamp lady." And I was like, "Who? What is the crazy lamp lady? What do you?"
I remember that day because you came up to me and you're like, "Hi, what are you doing?" And I was like, filming. I've been in here. Like I thought I was in trouble. I was so scared. I was like, "Hi, I'm Jocelyn." Like I didn't know what was going on.
Well, I didn't either. But they're all like, "You have to go introduce yourself," and I'm like, "Why? What is?" Now I get it. I understand. So it makes sense to me now. So that was our first introduction.
Yeah.
And okay, where were we at? Go on from there.
Yeah. So then I started Crazy Lamp Lady, and it's just kind of taken off, and it's been really exciting. And here we are a few years later. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. Okay, let's catch you up now. So we got her up to the modern. She's a crazy lamp lady, and she's got all these followers, and it's sensational. You walk in here, and everybody watches you now. You're probably
I don't
getting
know
more.
about that.
Well, I don't know. I mean, people want your autographs now. So I come up and say, "Who are you?" And they're all like, "Give me an autograph."
I know, it's such an interesting
It
phenomenon.
is,
yeah.
and it's my fault. I had no idea. So,
Well, in
so
my
George,
case-
the same with you though. Like, I mean, you get recognized. You're out there. You've built this channel now. So how did you get to where you are today, the Nomad?
Well, I have to be honest. I was like a lot of people who've been in this business a while. I was listening to a lot of older dealers, and I'd have a great show, and the dealers around me would complain about, oh, it's slow. Oh, new people aren't interested in this. And I'd say, oh, that's funny because I'm doing all right, but they seem like they're doing the same old thing with the same old prices
Right.
and the same old stuff, and they're not following the market. And I thought, there needs to be something about what the market is now. And so I started saying this to a friend of mine, and he was like, "Shut up! I don't want to hear this anymore." And I was like, "What do you mean?" And it's Zeno, who's my tech guy. It was his idea. He said, "You don't give people younger than you information anywhere where people get their information now. You don't tell us what an antique show is, or an antique mall, or what's cool about it, or why we should go there, or why that piece of glass is $300, and then you're mad at us because we don't show up and buy your stuff." And I thought, oh, that's totally valid, but I don't really know how to do this. And he's like, we are going to sit down. So we sat down and had a marathon, and he said, we're going through YouTube and we're going to find people who sell vintage. And there she was.
All right, so you found her.
And
It's
we
like,
turned
there
on
she
her
is.
channel.
Let's watch this.
And I was like, wow, she knows something. She's making it interesting. She's showing the stuff. This is it. This is the thing to do. This is absolutely right. And there were some other folks who have grown a lot, but they were also on YouTube at the time, and they were like really inexperienced, and I'd watch them pick up something and go, oh, it's more than $2. I won't spend more than $2. And they put down a $200 thing and then buy a $5 piece of crap because it was $2, and I'm screaming at the TV.
Buy the other thing!
No. So
Okay,
finally
okay.
he was like, stop screaming at the TV and let's make a video. And I just was like, now I've had lots of public speaking and that doesn't bother me, but the idea of being on film and seeing myself and hearing my voice really freaked me out. And the first time I did it, I just hated it, but we put it out and about 50 people watched it, and I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. This actually works. What if 100 people watch this Sunday? I had no idea of social media in the scope. So we start the channel, and another YouTuber picked up on it, liked it, told her people. All of a sudden I had 600 viewers, and now I've got 50,000. I mean, it's just incredible the way.
How long
it
did that
just
take you to go
parlays.
from one to where you're at?
I think I've been doing
of
this
3-4 years?
2.5 years, maybe, or
Okay.
so, maybe 3 now.
Okay.
Something like that, yeah. And
So interesting.
it's just been fascinating, and what's been so great is that a lot of my trepidation was, oh, it's social media, and people use social media to beat up on each other, and they're not going to be nice, and it's not going to be this. Turned out that actually, for the most part, the same sort of helpfulness, the collegial nature, the helping people out, it permeates. I think it's about this business and this group of people and who likes this that bring that attitude to it, because the social media, for the most part, with the reselling and the vintage, is great and wonderful.
I'm a newbie, obviously. I didn't even have a YouTube app on my phone until I met you. So
You gotta download the app. I'm like, no, the other app. I'm like trying to show him.
I remember that was the best conversation, and then you're like, oh, we have a channel. Turned out you were
I'm
already
still
on there.
learning. I
Like, oh, we have not
I didn't know what a thumbnail
subscribers.
was. My mom says, that toothpick thing you keep talking about.
Right?
The thumbnail. That's what she was referring to. I'm totally inexperienced at all of this, but what I find amazing is the change in the industry, and that's what I'm so drawn in by. Is like I see a young group of people that are getting interested in this industry. We've got a 16-year-old dealer here in the Antique Center, and we have lots of 20-somethings coming in.
Yep.
And I got people that I work with a lot of high schoolers, and a lot of these guys, they don't want to go to college anymore. They want to, they're entrepreneurs. They have a different spirit about them, and I love that we're able to just share and encourage and
give people the idea that you can do this too. This
Yes.
is fun. You can collect if you love collecting, and there's new things to discover, even if you're like, well, I collected before and I got everything, and well, no, there's we were at a house earlier today that shows that
Wait till you
can
see
just
the
keep
house.
collecting. Oh gosh,
Amazing.
there's going to be an incredible video or 3 out of there.
Or 10.
But you know, as a collector, you can branch into other things, and it's so interesting to see what other people do. And as a reseller, there's all sorts of information available to you. And like you said, the best thing about this is I watched a couple start, literally, you said you started with $20. They started with $20 and they were living in their car. They now own a big antique mall, are doing very well, put their kids through college, the whole thing. So, you know, you can ramp this up. It can be a small business or it can be as big as you want it to be.
Yeah, and that's interesting because we have a lot of people that are in the antique center that are retired, that
Yes.
do this as a hobby. But then we also have a lot of people that this is their profession.
Yes.
You know, I blessed enough. I mean, thankful that I was in a position where I was able to learn at a young age, and went right out of high school. When I was at 16, I knew what I wanted to do. I was like, I'm not going to college. Like, this is what I want to be and what I want to do.
Yeah.
And I've been able to travel the world. You know, I put 3 kids. We've raised 3 kids. We traveled the world. I bought antiques in 16 countries, and now we're sitting at this place. I mean, I can't even describe.
It's amazing.
It's amazing.
Where-
It's not the
where
kind
it
of
came
life you
from.
could plan. It
No.
just sort of is spontaneous and organic, and it happens. You know, I think good people and good ideas find their way, and this whole avenue has turned out to be a new way that good people and good things can come to the surface.
Something I noticed in our industry is the change of market. And I got behind technology one time in our industry, and I almost failed because I didn't keep up with the time of technology
Yeah.
change. And so when technology shifted a lot and everything started selling online, and we were holding off and trying not to, it got to the point where if we didn't switch and do something different, we were going to go out of business.
Yep.
And I see this new technology entering into this industry from my perspective. It's like, okay, in order to reach the next generation, we've got to be creative. We've got to do stuff
Yeah.
differently. Invite them in. Exactly what you're describing.
Invite them, ask them,
Invite them.
tell them how cool this is.
It's
as easy
amazing.
as that, because it really is. And then they get here and they do it. I mean, we're getting all these new people coming. Like, the reason I met you is because I do the show here in Springfield, and Jocelyn brought me in and
Yeah.
introduced. And what a wonderful thing! And this is how it works. Is it's connections. It's this feeling of sharing this thing in common that you both really like, and it's just instant.
Yeah, there was an interesting thing I've noticed in this industry as well, is that you build friendships
Absolutely.
around this industry. So my friends, when we were buying in Europe, we would go. My wife's German, so we would go there, and then we started buying antiques, started shipping them back, and we actually had friends in all over Europe. We could fly over there, we stay at their house, and you just grow connections and friendships, and it's much more than buying and selling.
Yeah.
It's
You
not
know?
about the stuff after a while. The stuff is really great, but it's what makes you realize that, oh, we like the stuff because we kind of see certain things the same way. And then
Yeah.
it becomes about
And
the
friendships and-
relationship. And it's
yes.
just so cool.
It is. It
I
really
mean, I
is.
never would have met either of you if it wasn't for this, and it's amazing, and here we are.
And here we are. And we got to see Pat today. And
I
you
know,
see
that
this,
was amazing.
Her house, this collection, oh boy.
Okay, let's just spend a couple minutes. You guys are going to do what you do with your own videos from Pat's, but just let's share with our viewers that are watching this what you experienced at Pat's house.
I want to hear because I don't know how often you walk into houses like this. I've done this a few times. I want to hear what you thought.
Well, it was pretty incredible. We visited a house today, Pat's house, and it was amazing to me. She had so many different collections, and for me, I see people who collect certain things, but I don't know how many collections she had. It was
Hundreds.
probably hundreds of collections of different things. And I think most people will collect one thing and then they decide they're done with it and they get rid of it and then they collect another thing. But it was insane. And I think some people would say, oh, that's a hoarder, but she wasn't a hoarder.
It was so organized.
It was an organized collection of things.
Yeah, it was curated, it was assembled, it was just a
And her
ton.
house was so clean. It was just cluttered, and it was amazing. Like, some of her stuff was just, I'm like drooling. I'm like picking stuff. I'm like,
You see all those paperweights just you're like, look.
at some point I'm not even filming. I'm just like, what is
What was so interesting is I said, Pat, do you want to sell anything here? And she's like, oh, just those 2 things I told you
just
about.
those 2 things over in the corner.
Nothing else is for sale.
And I thought that was pretty great because this gal is in her 90s and she's like, I've already told my kids just call him and he'll deal with
Yeah.
it. So she's not getting rid of her stuff
doesn't
because she
want to.
feels some sort of guilt or her kids are pushing them into it. So there's a lesson for some of you other old folks. Keep the stuff you really love. Your kids will deal with it.
Yeah, I think
That's
go to
interesting.
burners.com. Taker's gonna have quite the collections on his hands.
I have no idea when the time comes what we will do with Pat's collection. It's amazing.
So much, yeah. And I mean, just everything, and then and each, every square inch festooned with jewelry hanging and purses hanging and bows.
Okay, how many pieces of jewelry do you think she had in the house? Hanging, just sitting, the stuff we've seen.
Oh gosh, 10,000 at least.
At least, right?
That we saw.
Yeah.
And there were layers and layers and layers behind it.
How many ties do you think she has hanging on display in that house?
I did not know you could get 150 ties on one rack, and she had 8 or 10 or 12 of them. I'd say there were 2,000 ties.
Hey, I got a code out of it.
You got that is the coolest thing too. She
gifted me a coat.
Yes,
and
said
it's
you
a
have
really
to take
cool
this.
Coat.
A fur coat.
I'm gonna wear it
Fit
back to the
perfectly.
Airbnb and surprise my room and be like, hey, look what I got today.
See, that's awesome.
And just tell them it's real fur, and that you just had to splurge.
I'm so fancy. Oh, and look at these pears in my pocket.
She gave us pears.
She has a pear. She has a pear tree out back, and she does all of her own grass. She's 92, right? She said 92.
She's almost 93. She said. Yeah.
Almost 93. She mows her own grass. She picked a wheelbarrow full of pears, and that she gives away. And she insisted that we take pears with us back.
And she was going to go and get us bags, and I was like, oh no, I can take a handful of pears.
Yeah, she was going to go back in the house, go upstairs, and get some bags for us. And
she was the sweetest lady.
So sweet.
And just really amazing. And there is something to that. I've got to say, I have met a lot of people in this industry who are in their 80s and 90s, and some of them are still dealers, and a lot of them are still collectors, and they're still enjoying it, and it's something to do. And I noticed they seem vital and interested and alive still.
Yeah, and didn't she just seem happy?
Yes.
I mean, she was just like truly a joyful spirit.
Yeah.
And she's been that way. I've known Pat my entire life. Matter of fact, I told you when I was, I remember as a teenager selling her some of those things in her house, and she's always bought off of us. She worked for me for 15 years just because of the passion of the antiques, and she
wanted to be around it.
She wanted to be around it. She loved the auctions and she loved the antiques. But what a sweet lady, and she's so nice. So you're going to get to see Pat from all of our channels and experience
all from a different perspective.
Different perspectives of one tour of a home.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that'll be really interesting.
It will be interesting. It will be interesting. All right. Well, are we done? Do we need to talk about? Was there any other topics we should talk about to these viewers here? Like, is there something else you would want to?
Well, I guess I would say, let me turn the tables on you real quickly.
Okay.
So we know a little of your story. You got into this, you and your brother have purchased this place 7 months ago. That's a pretty huge investment.
It's very.
And it's, so what made you do it, and what is what are you looking at in the future?
Well, what I find exciting about this place is my auction company was here before this was an antique center. So there's 122,000 square feet. And one of these big buildings, these 10,000 square foot buildings, we rented before they developed the antique center. I knew they were going to put it here, and I was 21 years old, and my wife and I had just got married. And we've just bought our house.
What an opportunity to set it up right where there's going to be people who like that stuff coming to it.
And so Bruce and Vivian, they came to us, the previous owners, and they asked if we would be interested in bringing our auction out here. And we were 21, and it was like, let's do this. This makes sense. And I started buying and selling with Bruce some, and my wife being German, the international travel didn't bother me. So fast forward, I was here for a long time. When the internet came along and we switched our style of auctioning to online only,
right, we
no longer needed the space to lease. And so about 6 years ago now, we actually moved back out of here. We were here for 20 years, and we gave up our building. We didn't renew the lease. A couple years ago, Bruce passed away, and Vivian asked me actually it was a conversation, and we kind of worked it out. Her daughter called, and she was wanting me to buy her antiques. And so I buy lots of big collections and sell them at auction. So they wanted us to buy the warehouse out, and I said, well, the only way I'm going to buy the warehouse is if I would buy them all. I couldn't sell that stuff without having them all. And so they said, yeah, let's work out a deal where we can sell you them all. And so, it's humbling, first off, to think that I have to make this business work for 700 plus dealers. There's
It's
1,000
a
booths and
lot.
showcases.
We had 500 between the 4 malls I ran, and I'll tell you, it was a full-time plus job trying to keep all that going. So yeah, you
have all the dealers. Then we have close to 50 employees, and so we're like, all of this is like, it's humbling, it's scary, it's nerve-wracking, because I want to make this right. I want to improve it. We don't want to see something that was built fall off, but at the same time, it's so exciting for me because I love this industry. I grew up, buying and selling.
About it.
Passion, you have to be.
And that is the huge thing, and that's why you will succeed and you won't have problems.
Well,
because
good Lord will, and we won't.
The passion will take
Yes.
you through the hard times and
Yes.
the times where you wonder and scratch your head. And markets go up and down.
Yes.
Things change. Certain things that were really popular 30 years ago when I started collecting are very hard to sell now. Certain things we wouldn't even allow dealers to bring into the mall because they weren't old are now vintage and collectible and what people want.
You've heard this term 100 times. If Tupperware ever becomes popular, I'm getting out of the industry. Well, I've sold 50 pieces of Tupperware last week out of the mall.
That's right.
And these bold Tupperware colors are so popular, and I remember that so distinct. Because you got this whole group of folks out there that hold on to those old ways, and it's like, man, we have to change.
Yeah, I heard the same thing about velvet paintings. I had one of my staff members like,
I got an Elvis one
if a
for sale.
velvet painting ever comes in here, I'm quitting. And well, then I ended up leaving and becoming a dealer in the mall. And then I found a velvet painting, and I was like, oh my God, will she really quit? I really like this person. Should I bring this in? So I brought it in and set it down and didn't say anything.
That is so funny.
And she looked at it and said, I know, you're the third dealer to bring one in. I'm still here.
Okay, so this is an interesting thing that we might be able to speak to some younger folks that are just younger and just getting into the industry, how the market will shift through time.
Yeah.
Have you seen that shift already?
Oh, yeah.
A lot, right?
I mean, I talked earlier about the carnival glass, and I've seen it dip down, and now it's starting to come up a little bit again. And I think back when I started selling the carnival glass, that was even when it was coming down from what it had been.
You caught it on the way down
I caught
already.
it on the way down, yeah. So, I mean, even I've seen that.
Yeah.
In the past.
And you've seen
And
that.
it's happening faster and faster. Yeah, I've seen a ton of it now. And
What about the swung glass vases, for example, in the
yeah.
last couple of years?
I
was swinging. I swing. I had no idea. See, the auction, I was sheltered with the auction business because we would only go buy and look for things that we were already selling.
Yeah.
So I wasn't familiar with a lot of these new categories that were emerging, like the swing bases, right? Swung
The
vase.
swing vases.
What is a swing vase? What do you mean? What is this?
There's a little clue in what you just said too for people. You're talking about younger people. So one thing is like what you like and collect what you want to collect, and don't worry about fads going up and down. But if you are a reseller, then you need to be paying attention and notice that things actually change even faster. And yes, the antique business is faddish. I remember when one day in our mall in Oregon, all these people came in and were like, I'm looking for Fire King Jadeite. I'm looking for Fire King Jadeite. Martha Stewart's going to put an article out on Monday, and the prices are going to soar, and I'm buying every piece I can that I don't have in my collection. So we sold half of what we had on Monday. 20 people came in with that article in their hand. Do you have any of this? And we sold all the rest of it in the mall. It was crazy.
Just from one article.
Just from one article. So things happen like that, and yet, it happens the opposite way too. Everybody loved Roseville pottery, and then there started to be reproductions, and new collectors got scared off. So I say to newer resellers, just bear in mind the stuff that stuff from your childhood that's popular now is going to be popular while your generation is into it, and then the next generation is going to come along. So you kind of have to pay attention to what they like too. You can't ever assume in this business that because everything's old, it's static and it's always going to stay the same, and I only have to know this much. You don't. You really have to know a little bit about a whole lot if you want to do it on this level.
Well, and that's the greatest thing about working here is I look at the sold bins, and I am just shocked at what sells. I mean, I'm watching all these McDonald's cups that I got as a kid.
Yeah.
Now they're bringing $10, $20, $30 each, and you just see these fads that change over time. Lunch boxes. I mean, our lunch boxes we took to school with us are now $200 and $300 each, and some more.
I just sold a Star Wars lunchbox with the thing, the thermos cracked from top to bottom for $250, and I just like, wow, this is crazy. But it's peak time because, you know, and also you got to look at Star Wars is a great example. When things start to be multi-generations looking for it, that's a really great place to
Marvel,
be.
Star Wars.
Yeah, because now you've got like 2 or 3 generations who grew up with it, and they're all interested in it. So that's going to probably last for a while. Whereas, you know, other things they come and go. So.
Yeah. That's exciting.
It is exciting to see. Yeah, there's always, and again, that's part of why there's always room is because taste change. So
Taste change.
You know, if everybody just wanted the same thing, this would be a very boring world and a very competitive industry.
It wouldn't be very fun, would it?
Not really.
It wouldn't. It wouldn't. The competition, I love all of the dealers that buy and sell. I love meeting the friends. I love every element of this business. And even when I lose money, it's still, you learn. Like there's goodness in all of it. And you meet so many incredible people. Kitchen staff dropping pots and pans. It's really fun.
Scary noise.
It's scary. It's not Halloween anymore. That was last week.
Well, in an antique mall, when you hear ding, you think, uh-oh. But no, it is really cool that way. And I guess the other thing I like about it is that, you know, these people who are into it, it's about their passion.
Yes.
So it's not the thing that they do 5 days a week that maybe they're bored with, or you're not talking politics.
Okay,
You're not talking.
let's stop for a second. It's about their passion. Tell us what your passion item is. What is the thing that you like to collect that if you were just going to collect that one era, one type of thing, what is it?
Well, it's interesting because Jocelyn said earlier, people collect things for a while and then maybe they give up that collection and go on to something else, and that's very American. Foreign collectors, typically, they collect something and they keep it forever, especially like in Japan, it never comes out of the collection. So we're different that way. So my passions have changed like everyone else's. When I started, it was all about Art Deco, and I love Art Deco still. But then I moved to a house that was arts and crafts. So I started collecting Mission and arts and crafts because it fit the house better. My most recent passions probably, funnily enough, it's gone back to the very beginning thing. I'm really into coins again right now. Yeah.
Okay.
That's just come around full circle. I think it's because I'm older and now I have the budget to buy the things I couldn't buy before. So now it's interesting again, you know.
Now it's fun.
Yeah, so now it's fun. But, I don't know. Passion can come from anything.
Sure.
It can be a memory. I mean, I went through a big treasure craft phase when I was writing the book. I didn't even know how many different pieces of treasure craft had been part of my life growing up until I went to write the book, and I'm like, oh, they did little green elves? My grandmother had those. Oh, they did those leaf dishes, and my sister got 7 of those as wedding presents when she got married in 1971, and it was just like, it starts registering, and then I'm like, well, what happened to all of this? And the passion was like, I'm going to be the one to figure it out and tell the story, and that became the passion more than the stuff.
That's so interesting. So you're back to coins.
So back to coins. Yeah.
Jocelyn, what is?
I mean, I guess you could never guess what mine was.
Those swing bases, is that what it's
Just glass in general.
Just glass
I just
in
love
general.
glass.
Yeah. Art glasses.
Has it always just been
Yeah.
art glass? Is that what you've been drawn to?
I mean, I'm drawn to a few different things. I love art glass, but I also love weirdos, like pottery weirdos.
Okay.
Yeah, I collect those.
Pottery weirdos.
Yeah.
What are you talking about?
Like strange figure
Like
rolls.
strange
Okay.
figurines.
Strange
Yeah.
figure. I'm sitting here thinking, we're the weirdos. Okay, so strange pottery pieces.
figurines. Like if it looks weird,
If it looks weird, you like it. That makes sense. Like that head you seen down at the warehouse.
I was just going to say,
that's
when we did the warehouse. Yes.
I'm like, this is amazing.
This is the greatest
so weird.
thing. Okay.
Did you end up with that?
I did. No, it was really heavy. I was like, I don't know what I'd do with this. Stick it out in the yard.
So weirdos and glass. So what about glass? Now, there's glass of what? And when you hear the word glass, there's thousands of categories. So what do you like? What specifically?
Pretty much everything about it. Really colorful. I really love colorful
lots of colorful glass. Big stuff, little stuff.
All of it.
Does it matter? Italian,
Really
American? Doesn't matter.
It doesn't really matter. Yeah.
As long as it's got color to it and it's glass. Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, I like antique glass. I like contemporary glass. It just, I don't know.
Yeah, glass really got me right away too. And there's something about the color and the clarity and the fact that it's so, malleable. I mean, you can shape it in almost any shape you can envision. And it's just, you know,
I find interesting is the resurgence in glass over the past couple of years.
Yes.
It's just like there's a whole new group of people buying glass, and some of this older stuff that we were not able to sell 3 and 4 or 5 years ago, I'm seeing sell again for decent
it's
money.
really exciting. I just took on a big collection of Fenton glass, and I mean, 10 years ago I would have stayed far away from it because they had just gone out of business and people were dispirited and they stopped collecting, and it all just sort of stopped. Well, now 10 years later, there's that generation is back into it. It's
Right.
reignited their passion, and the new generation is into it. And so suddenly it's like peak
And
days
Fenton has
again.
so much color in it too. I mean,
It's got
lots of
color.
variety. I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
And anything
What a
that
great
glows under
day.
a black light.
Thank you guys.
Oh, this is so much
for
fun.
doing it. Isn't this fun? We should pick a topic again tomorrow and just talk about a
We should
topic.
do a live.
A live. Let's do a live.
I think that's
How do we
a great
do a
idea.
live? I don't know how to do a
We need
live.
Wi-Fi.
We got Wi-Fi. We got Wi-Fi. I tried to do a live Facebook video and I lost signal. I was outside. I didn't have Wi-Fi on my phone. It just didn't work. I was like, this is horrible.
This is a whole dead zone in here.
It's a whole dead zone.
Live can be tough. Yeah, you've got to have a good signal.
Okay.
Yeah, it worked great at the house.
So
'cause
live.
the Wi-Fi is excellent out there.
Okay.
now.
We'll have to do a live. Josh's house has great Wi-Fi.
I know.
My
it
house
does.
has like nothing at my house.
Well, the Airbnb is
The Airbnb.
amazing. Yeah.
That's where we'll go. We'll
Yeah,
go to the
okay.
Airbnb
Yeah.
and we'll do a
sounds great.
live. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, guys, thanks for watching. At Burner Brother Antiques. Subscribe to our channel. Okay, all 3 channels. What is your proper name? I don't know the proper name.
The Antique Nomad is my channel, my eBay, my everything.
The Antique Nomad.
Yes,
And everybody knows.
Crazy lamp lady.
Everybody knows Crazy Lamp Lady.
that's true.
No introduction needed. Hey, guys, keep joining us. Watch us. We appreciate it. Blessings. Well, that'll be fun.